Hi everyone. Welcome. I'll be sharing this topic on how do we break free from this 5 destructive stress traps. It's quite a tongue twister, isn't it? And then, so I'll be sharing what are these 5 stress traps. And then after that, I'll also be sharing this acronym that I created called an EASY system. So EASI, that something that you can already take away if you can recognize some of the stress so that we can help our body to heal itself again, which is supposed to do naturally. So this is the agenda for tonight. So of course, firstly, to see my definition of what is stress, is this word is so commonly used. And then I'll go through what are these 5 stress traps. And finally, the EASY system to help us break through if you can catch yourself in any of those stress. Okay, this is a little bit about me. So I'm more commonly known as the BodyTalk practitioner. So I do private BodyTalk sessions, and I also teach BodyTalk Access and also BodyTalk Fundamentals for people who want to be certified as BodyTalk. And I also teach the Mindscape workshop as well. So normally I like to remind people that with this phrase that your body, our body, this human body is designed with this self-repair mechanism. And it looks something like this. Like the flower, right? We don't really need to do much. Like in nature, it knows how to do its job naturally. The issue with humans is because we fall into stress, and therefore the self-healing mechanism is actually compromised. So if we're living a life as if a tiger is in front of us and we have to do whatever it takes to protect ourselves, so what this means is we are in a stress mode. So when we are in this kind of stress mode, it inhibits the natural process for our body, for us to flow, for us to grow, and for our body to heal. So I know we don't live in this scenario day to day, right? There's no tiger in the city, but sometimes it could be our work. Sometimes it could be our relationship to whatever it is. This kind of stress, like I say, inhibits self-healing process. If we live our life like a sports or a person like this, or very competitive sports, which means our body feel very intense, we live very competitively on a prolonged basis. Our body is so used to that operating mode, it actually forgets how to stop, how to rest, so that the body can do the repairs. So in this scenario, we're saying that the body is living in this fight and flight mode, or fight or flight mode. It's either however we want to say it. In other words, sometimes people call this fight and flight mode stress. The interesting part is sometimes we are not even aware that we are under stress. So let's go a little bit deeper to find out what is this stress all about. So what is stress? Like, so my definition, like I say, my definition of stress is a gap between your internal world, which means your internal world means your past conditionings. This is how you used to operate, like the badminton player, for example. This is how the body is used to do work. Focus, get the results, focus, get the results, and keep training and training and training, right? So whatever is your conditioning, so that's how your body has been conditioned to operate. And with this kind of conditioning or upbringing, we already make up a story, a perception of our own capabilities. How many of us, when someone tells us, or given us an opportunity to go like, hey, this is something interesting, try something new. Have you ever had this thought that before you even consider, the first thing that comes out in your mind is go like, no, I can't do it. Has that happened to you? It definitely has happened to me, right? So it becomes, we do have certain perception of what we can or can't do, whether it's real or not, it doesn't really matter. So it also comes to this concept of habits. So we develop habits, internal habits, what we like or what we don't like, or what we do on a regular basis. And the internal thing is this thing called willingness. So what do I mean by willingness? It's like willingness either at the mind level, emotional level, or physical level. I can tell you one thing. For me, if you ask me, what is the one thing that I'm not willing to do? Bungee jump. Is there something that at all costs you're not willing to do? So that's your internal. So it's preset, whatever internal, right? And what if, so the gap between internal and of course the end will be external. So there's a gap between an internal and external reality, the actual event that's taken place, action they're going to do, and then the expectation of society. My point is, if internally we have, preset that this is what I will or will not do, and if the external, either your work or your relationship, your children, your whatever it is, put you in a space that you need to do those stuff. So that is that gap between your internal and external world, the things that you need to do. That is my definition of stress. So you can, just reflect on what kind of concept. We use this word so frequently. So the next time you catch yourself saying you're stressed or something, then you can break it down. What is my internal world saying, and what is the external, the actual thing that I need to do? Sometimes it's not that stressful. It's because that we have preconditioned, therefore it makes things a little bit more difficult. The gap seems bigger. So that is my definition of stress. Right? So how do we bridge the gap? We definitely cannot just cut the rope. The guy is going to collapse. Right? So in order for us to bridge the stress gap, firstly, we need to identify what is this gap about and what kind of things that I could do to fill up the gap. Okay, so these are the 5 stress traps. So let's start with the first one, fight. So what are some examples that when we are fight? So everything is we overdo. It's almost like the body cannot stop, right? The body is on an attack mode. Like your colleagues is just, or your people around you is just stalking, and you have this thing now, oh my God, they're saying something about me. So a little bit on the paranoia as well, right? So we're in this fight mode. You constantly need to attack. So it's just can't stop. So some of the behaviors are like what? Very impulsive. Or when we are very impulsive, then we are very prone in making mistakes. We can get very aggressive as well because we're in this fighting mode. We can overpromise, like, okay, I can do this, and then there are times that we are not able to follow through with whatever that we say we want to do. So as much as you want to, because you're in the body is in the fight mode, but then it cannot follow through. Yeah, so overpromise, underdeliver. So that is one example of being in the fight mode. And then I'll also be sharing from the Chinese medicine perspective, there is this emotion, there's 5 emotions to all the 5 stress traps. The emotions that is more associated with this fight mode is this emotion called anger. So you're constantly on the go, right? The energy is just this nonstop. So that is the fight mode. The second F, which is also a very common one, people like to say fight or flight, right? So what is flight? Flight means you run away. So one is you attack, one is defend. So you run, right? So everything is, we call it the just now was hyper, this is hypo. So everything is below. So either someone is constantly hiding, constantly avoiding, very timid, feel very insecure. And then a lot of the next emotion I want to talk about is the emotion of fear. Right, so when fear of what? Fear of a bunch of stuff. Fear of commitment, fear of rejection. And when body is in that mode for a long time, we almost become like a perfectionist. You got to get, because it's afraid, right? Like something's going to go wrong. So we sometimes, people under this category can over prepare. So that was flight. So there's a lot of fear of commitment, fear of rejection. There's so much fear that the person can't even engage in doing anything. And then the third F is freeze. Freeze means frozen. So which means whatever the person has experienced, even in the childhood or any time in our earlier years, This freeze mode is the events in the environment or ourselves is a little bit too overwhelming. So what are the symptoms or signs that our body goes into freeze mode? Like frozen mode is like sometimes you catch yourself like blank and blur most of the time, right? You want to do something and you went blank, you don't know what to do. This is frozen. Yeah, so that's freeze. And then because the body is actually still in shock, because that's why it went into a freeze mode. But then over time, right, we got used to all this way of body has this way of operating. And then what else? What other symptoms when we freeze? It almost feels like someone is stubborn, right? Not that the person is really stubborn, but it's because the body is freeze. It just feels very difficult to make changes, to adapt to changes, right? Very slow to move, right? You tell the person, if you work with someone is in a freeze mode, like you can tell 1 time, 2 times, 3 times until you get frustrated. But then the issue is the body is in such a freeze mode, is finding it very difficult to take action or move. And the emotion that comes with a freeze mode is constantly worry. Because it's frozen, right? It can't do anything. So what else can it do? In terms of even if it had plans, but it can't take action. So it falls into this idea of worry. Yeah, so that's freeze. And then what about so we have fight, flight, freeze. And then the fourth F is called faint. So faint means what kind of scenarios do we actually faint? When it's just too much, it's just overload, we can't deal with it. The body kind of like totally wipe out and the person fainted. But from a stress perspective, faint means it's not going to sound very nice. So how do you know if one of their stress mode is faint, which means the person might be in denial. But the funny thing is, if you're in denial, you probably won't say that you're in denial because you're in denial, right? So in denial or a lot of avoidance, it's just trying to avoid because the scenario or life, they perceive that life is too painful, things are too difficult. So the person with the body is feeling in this faint mode of stress. And it's the tricky one with this is because it's faint, right? So it's shut down, denial. This kind of this kind of stress would actually show on the surface as a very extremely positive. Like you're never gonna see my problem. So everything just looks good on the outside. So that's also a form of denial. The other example is you can see that whether or not you're in a faint is when you're quite judgmental. You can't do that. So you kind of like project your things that you need to work out onto others. So it has a tendency to judge other people. And also sometimes it's a gray line that this is one of the other thing is the need to be validated. Because this person felt like it's so stressful, I can't deal with it at all. So I need people to constantly validate that it is okay, it is okay. So I feel the person feels a little bit more comfortable and less stressful to be able to step up and do something. So this is quite stressful. And then of course, in the emotion wise, right? It's quite tricky because in Chinese medicine, the fire element, we said it actually comes in this package of joy and sadness. That's why that on the surface might appear very joyful, but underneath, the real self that they're actually hiding is actually feeling quite sad. Yeah, so that's the fourth F, which is faint. And then the fifth F of stress is this word called fawn. So what is fawn? Fawn means you have no choice, right? You're in the situation that. But I'm talking about this no choice is not that those that we heard on a regular basis. I use the example, it can sound very tough. The example will be like child prostitution. So it's a child is being either in that position that is being caught or it needs to do all the stuff that is not willing to, but it has no, at that moment, it has no choice because either the child needs food or needs to feed the family, we don't know, but that's the idea of fawn. But then over time, over time in this society, I don't think we have, put ourselves in such a situation, but then it could appear as if someone keeps saying the word no choice, either the body is in this fawn mode at some point in his or her younger days, like you keep feeling that the external people are not giving him or her a choice. So you just got to do this. So that's quite stressful for the kid. So you notice that as this person grown up, if someone keep using the word no choice, you hear that quite a lot, right? People, either yourself or people that you know, sometimes I can be a bit direct to say like, yes, there is a choice. I mean, for example, you say, oh, I'm doing this job because there's no choice. I say, yes, there is a choice. You have chosen this job. Whatever it is that this job is giving you, either it is salary or whatever it is, or the money or whatever else, some is it gives you the time flexibility. So you have chosen that. Consciously, you have chosen that, but maybe subconsciously, your body is in this fawn mode. Yeah, so that's quite tricky. So the other examples or signs when someone is in the fawn mode would be what? You feel like you're in the limbo. Like you felt like there's no choice thing. It's like, there's nothing available for me. So it's constantly be in that limbo mode. Or someone is very submissive, a little bit like the yes man because of this fawn, right? I can only say yes. Emotion-wise, it's actually grief, which also means that the body is not able to grieve because it's stuck in this no choice, right? So it's quite painful, and you feel very stuck. And then sometimes you see, if you're in this mode, you feel like you constantly struggle to escape. Means like this job or this relationship or this whatever is always very, very difficult to be in because you're constantly trying to escape because your body perceives that it has no choice. So it's actually quite painful. And this person may be constantly confused, feeling empty and lack of clarity because it feels like it doesn't even have a choice to make any decisions. So these are the 5 stress traps. Which of the, which of the 5 Fs can you relate best to, or do you think which of the 5 Fs is your top priority that you need to break free from? So is it fight, flight, freeze, faint, or fawn? Do you catch yourself being more prone to? So for me, I catch myself more into this fight mode. Which of the 5 are you most prone to, and which means that you need to do something to help yourself break free? So these are some of the areas that is waiting to break free, right? So if you can recognize with any of these symptoms, which means that your body is in some form of some parts of combination of the 5F. Right. So first is physical. So you feel like you're constantly stuck with aches and pains. Like you wake up every morning with aches and pains, or ailments, which is you fall sick quite often, right? Which means that your immune system, like what the video, right? Dr. Bruce Lipton say, if your immune system or your body is in this fight or flight mode for a long time, your immune system is compromised. It actually can't do or function properly. So on an emotional level, how can we detect that our body is under stress? Emotionally, sometimes you feel that it's a little bit more suppressed. Like you feel like you can't express yourself. Even if you express yourself, sometimes what the message you want to get across is not totally understood. So that means that at the emotional level, the body is somewhat quite stressed. Exhaustion means the energy is not enough to see you through the day. So you constantly feel exhausted, or you feel very drained. This is almost like your battery power is, no matter how best you charge, like your battery is like maybe at 60% maximum capacity for you. So it is feel very drained, which means the body is quite stressed, right? And on the mind level, there's some patterns of self-sabotage, which means, like I say, before if something is presented to you, the first thing you hear yourself say is, I can't do it. And can't and not willing to do it is very different. Yeah. So, but the more common ones is like, no, cannot, like, it's too difficult. No, all your excuses will come up. And then even that's why, it's very difficult. Ideal once you break free, that you'd be able to adapt to new routine and form new habits easier. So that's when you know that you're somewhat break free from that freeze mode, for example. And the tough one actually sometimes is this thing called addiction. So when someone, if you feel like you're addicted, which means you're trapped, right? Like I mean, it doesn't sound as in the past, like, I don't know, maybe 50 years ago, when we talk about addiction, there's only what? Drugs, gambling, very few. But nowadays, the list of so-called addiction get a little bit wider. I mean, some people are addicted to social media. So that's a form of the addiction. And if you go back to the fight and flight mode, where does addiction fall in terms of the fight and flight? There is a combination. Addiction can be someone in a freeze mode, it can't go anywhere. That's why it's stuck in the addiction. So that's more, or also fawn. This is hopeless. There's nothing else you can do. Very rare is fight or flight. So it's more fawn or freeze. Unless you faint, you just want to deny and doesn't want to deal with life, then you fall into addiction. Yeah, so that's quite scary. Some people call it spiritual crisis, but what it basically means that things are okay with your life in terms of job is okay. I mean, as in the financial part is okay, but you just a lack of clarity what you want to do with your life. It felt like a little bit meaningless, a little bit the inner connection that is a little bit blur. So once we break free from this mode, you feel like you're a bit more guided. How many of you have felt, for example, like some things that you do, you don't know why you really do it, but then the next 1 or 2 days, you're like, oh, is that why I did that? Right? So that's also a form of feeling very guided by your own inner subconscious, if you want to put it that way. Right? If not, then you will make a lot of mistakes, right? It's like everything I do seems so wrong. And then in work, that's quite easy sometimes to determine, right? If your career or your business not taking off, finance or cash flow got some issues. So that's also some form of whatever is stress at above physical, emotional level, that will impact on your career. Right? Then it will also impact on your relationships. You feel very insecure. You constantly feel you need acceptance by not really this boy-girl relationship or spouse relationship, right? Relationship in general with people. So you find that you constantly feel the need to be accepted by other people, and therefore there's this idea called over-reliant on other people's approval for you to do something. And the relationship that you're getting into may not be a very healthy type of relationship. It's a very over-dependent kind of relationship. And then finally, of course, if we're able to break free from these stress traps, you notice that your ability to feel comfortable with yourself. But I like to use the word I'm complete. Right? You feel you're confident, you feel more happy as well. You feel that your self-worth, that you're a little bit like you're worthy of something. So the ability to either trust yourself or trust other people. When that happens, interesting enough, you find that you're quite easy, inspiration comes to you. And because inspiration can also be very contagious, right? You can spread. If you're feeling inspired, people around you, when they're close to you, they talk to you, they feel inspired too. And then same thing with creativity. They're able to have some interesting, not just thoughts, creativity. It's not just thoughts, but creativity is once you have an idea, you're able to actually implement or translate those ideas to something tangible, something that, a goal or plan that you want to do. It needs creativity as well. If not, then you're going loops and loops in this autopilot mode as well. Yeah, so these are some of the areas that if you can relate to some of them, so it's somewhat some telltale signs that what kind of stress your body is in, and some things you can do later on. I'll be sharing the easy system that you can help break free from this 5F stress mode. So what are the strategies or steps that we can take to help us breach this stress gap. At least we know what kind of stress we are in, or we are more prone to. Then we can do something about it. So this is the easy system. So let's start with the letter E first. So what does E stands for? So E stands for exit. So of course, if your system is in this stress mode, in order to break free, first you gotta exit. So what does exit stands for? So what do we need to exit from? We need to exit from this thing called coping mode. Some people will use the word that I'm coping well. Coping mechanism is a stress mode. In short, normally we say the fight or flight. Freeze, but your system is going autopilot, like almost like a no-brainer. Live your day minus the consciousness part, right? So if you catch yourself in any of those stress scenario, first thing is you need to be aware that you want to end this autopilot mode. What else do you need to exit? The other thing that can help us exit is you got to decide when you're going to help your brain switch off. So for me, I call it airplane mode. So I do have even though like I'm on my own, right? I'm working on my own. I'm not working for like a corporate job, but I do have working hours as well. So there's a time after my working hours, I will switch off. So for me, I literally put my WhatsApp on airplane mode. So it's up to you. I know some have young kids or stuff like that. So you got to decide when is your after office hours. You may not get a lot of time for some people, but at least you decide when is your switch off mode. And then the third thing that you can do to help your body exit from this coping mode or coping mechanism is how do you get unstuck from this emotion? That's the E. So you recognize any of stress mode, you need to tap your cortices. A is adapt. So adapt means that the body is now out of the fight or flight mode, that is not coping anymore. That means we're helping our body to get into this thing called rest mode. And in this rest mode, that your body is able to do reflection and then acceptance. Acceptance of what? Acceptance that things have changed, to adapt to the new changes. Because life changes, nothing stays the same. Right? So we need to help our body update. So update per the past conditionings. There's how the body is very, very interesting. If you have experienced some stressful moment, even when you are 5 years old, for example, the body remembers this is how I operate. The body gets stuck in this stress mode. You might have moved on with your life, but it's interesting is your body still remember that stress mode, like it or not. That's why you get into this 5F scenario. Right? So when we are able to exit, now we enter, and then the body, when you do your cortices or access, you're able to help our body update whatever conditioning. So your hormones gets updated because our hormones change, right? It's like, I'm sure all of us are so-called adults, right? Not kids right now, coming from the hormones perspective, right? Because when we are kids, the hormone secretes a different set of, the body secretes a different sets of hormones for teenagers. And as we grow up, the body secretes a different set of hormone. And for the women, if you get pregnant, the body secretes a different set of hormones. How does your body know? Isn't that interesting, right? The problem is, if your body somewhat subconsciously gets stuck in a 5-year-old, you will catch yourself behaving like a 5-year-old. That's how the body functions. It's only when we are out of that stress mode, the body can do this in a more healthy manner. So to update, and then to be able to embrace changes. I think the past 2 years, all of us have gone through some form of change, whether or not your body is still stuck in 2020, or you have kind of like being able to, you feel changes happening. You're not fighting, like the willingness part I shared in the earlier slides, that you're not fighting with change. And if you say you have no choice but to change, that, especially that, then your body is all the more in a fight, in a stress mode. Yeah. So unless you say, oh my God, it's so great that right now I can do so much and I'm enjoying the growth or the changes. So that's a sign that your body is flowing. And then when you're able to adapt, I love this word, accountability, means you are in control. You have no one else to blame. I know when I started in this body talk journey 16 years ago, right? I know we're still human, all of us. At some point, you like to blame somebody, not intentionally, but subconsciously, like, oh yeah, it's because of this that this happened. Right? So when we start to take accountability of our life, so-called grow up, either at a subconscious mind level or the spiritual maturity, then you're able to do stuff that you are accountable for yourself. So like tapping cortices is a form of accountability act as well. Right? The health doesn't happen naturally. We need effort to actually contribute to our well-being, health and well-being. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so that's E and A. What is the third acronym? That is S. S stands for support. So now your body is able to flow nicely. What is the next step? Next step is awareness. So support, of course, support is an act of giving and receiving, or receive and give. Most human beings give, cannot receive, don't know how to receive. So that's also a one-way traffic, right, for energy flow. To help this awareness of give and receive, what can we do? We can breathe. From the body talk perspective, when we breathe, what do we get our body to do? We're getting our body to scan. Let me go back to the first few slides that I'm talking about, that your body can heal itself. Okay. If the body can heal itself, but if the body doesn't know what to repair, there's nothing to heal. Correct? It's autopilot. What's there to heal? So when we tap our cortices or access techniques, as we breathe and we tap, when we breathe in, the body is scanning for the higher frequencies in the body. And what does higher frequency represents? Is the body scans for emotions and thoughts that is not processed. And then when we breathe out, the body scans for the lower frequencies, which is the physical, muscles, tissues, fascia, connective tissues. The body is doing the scanning and then is able to detect the problems and therefore is able to do the self-repair work. Imagine if you're living your life running in and out every day, you're breathing for survival, you're not breathing for healing purposes. So that's also to validate that your body is a fight and flight mode. It's not able to pause and do this scanning job. While we breathe, the body scans, what is going on so that it can absorb nutrients and then detox toxins. But I like to take this to a next level for absorb and detox, to say that so that we have the awareness to not absorb uninvited contamination. That includes people in our life. Right? So sometimes we don't know, and then we get into that trap that we seek validation. So we seek a lot of contamination. And we do that, we will also share those negativity. We share unsolicited things. Like people like to give, like I say, we don't really know how to receive, but we constantly like to give. No UFO is like no unsolicited free offer or unsolicited free advice. Have you, or if you share, sometimes we feel down and then we just want to share with friends, our emotions to get it out. So, but then most of us, we're not aware. When a friend shares something, what do? In the past, I do that in the past as well. Then I catch myself during my body talk journey that I stop myself giving advice when somebody is offloading. We want to help to empower the person to find answers on their own. Like, so that's what I mean. Support, that means it's a very healthy kind of support, right? We don't take contamination, nor do we spread UFOs. So the last part is this GIG, and then there's a blank. You see that? Have you guys heard of this phrase called garbage in, garbage what? Oh, JT Fox. Yes, garbage in, garbage stays. Garbage don't know how to go out automatically. So we hang out in a more contaminated scenario. We take on the contamination and then we pass it on to our friend unknowingly. That's where the last part is, how do we help ourselves set a healthy boundary? Acronym here is install. So what does install stands for? That's where we need to help our body set this thing called healthy boundaries. So what are healthy boundaries? This is not something you can do consciously, okay? This is something your body do consciously. But when you are stressed, the body forgets how to do all this stuff. So we become very autopilot and become very stuck. Yeah, so the first step is, in order to help our body set this healthy boundary, one key point, we need to be able to sleep. Really balanced light sleep and deep sleep. Sleep is very, 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 very critical. I can't say enough, because during sleep, there's a bunch of stuff that, of course, the body does during sleep. Because, and one of it, for me, I find it very critical, and I normally like to mention, is the body does this process called memory pruning. So what does memory pruning? Like you prune the tree, you cut the tree, that pruning. So when we sleep, the body, of course, go through the phases, right? Light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. So when each of the stage of the sleep, the body does this cleaning out. It like a filing system, and then it goes when you go into deep sleep, it clear things up. The question is, we need to help, train our body to sleep again. If some of us have quite stressful period, we can't sleep. So it doesn't mean then the intense scenario is over, that you can recover. Sometimes it doesn't work like that. The body remembers in a very funny way, right? So first is we need to be able to sleep. I'm actually planning to redo this sleep webinar like this. And then it's also during those rest mode, right? The new cells get replenished or replaced without us consciously doing, obviously, right? For example, our red blood cells, the lifespan is approximately from 90 to 120 days. So as your body replenish the new healthy cells, it needs to be able to detox the old ones. And all this happens ideally is when our body is in rest mode. And what else? This Chinese word. This word called Wei Qi. And what does this boundary help us do? It protects us from vulnerability. And for example, this past 1 or 2 years, we need this kind of so-called healthy protection, not to get into fight or flight, right? We need a healthy boundary, right? Just like just now we say, garbage in, garbage stays. So we need to, how do we know? How can you even detect? If you're in a fight and flight mode, can you even detect whether the information, the help that you're getting is healthy or not? You don't know, right? You just take it in. You get FOMO. Everything also take first. Then your body needs to process to output. So that's very unhealthy. Like, so when a boundary is also very not so fantastic, right? We are also very injury prone, either physically, like we keep knocking ourselves, hurting ourselves physically, we keep getting sick, or it's a relationship. We get very dependent, we are very clingy, because the boundary is not there, right? Either your boundary, or you don't know how, your body don't know how to have a healthy boundary, so you actually get crashed into someone else's boundary. So we create very unhealthy relationships. So that is the acronym that I came up with, the easy system that helps us get out or break free from this stress mode. After hearing all this, again, I'm going to ask, where are you now? Or which of the easy system can you apply immediately to make improvements in your current situation? Cordyceps is the first technique that helps the body do is self-healing mechanism. Let's do this together, shall we? Let's tap our cordyceps together. Yeah, so I'm gonna go sideways. So hands at the back. What we're doing is we're putting one hand starting with the back of our skull, and we're tapping the head, and then I'm tapping my chest bone, And then I'm tapping the navel over 2 breaths. After 2 breaths, 1 palm up. After 2 breaths, another palm up. So do it at your own time. You know, we're all on different speed. And for those who have done, after the back to front, you're going to put your hands by the side. So the BodyTalk Access is a self-care workshop where you'll be learning 5 techniques, and these 5 techniques helps your body perform the self-regulation process so your body can heal itself. So who will benefit most from the BodyTalk Access? If that someone is constantly having recurring symptoms, ailments that is going almost forever and ever, it's not really getting better, or frequent doctor visits. So it's quite same, right? But sometimes people got recurring symptoms that is not urgent enough to go see a doctor. So, but if it's urgent enough to see a doctor, so the body is not able to recover or to get out of that loop that it's in. Yeah, so the access will definitely help this group of people. The third one I'm going to share is something that I felt most critical for someone to learn BodyTalk Access, which is caregivers. So caregivers can be parents, especially if you're caring for family, like family member on a more full-time, either is the elderly, or even those people right now is on the frontliners. Now you got to take care of patients, you got to take care of like nurses. It's going to deal with a lot of people's problems. So I probably consider myself under the category of caregiver as well. Like I do listen to people's sharings, right? People's story. Okay, who else? Caregivers, parents. And I've seen and heard a lot of parents who have learned the access. So if you're a parent, do it for yourself, because they have to deal with the kids, and especially the fast aid is so amazing for the parents, because when the kids fall sick or something, they don't fall into helplessness. They felt like they're able to help the kids. Whether the kid is 5 years old or even 50 years old, it's still your kid, right? If you feel stuck in your life, like a little bit on the freeze mode, I don't know where I'm heading with this, a little bit, the Singlish slang is like blah blah. Lack of direction, lack of purpose. That's why the lack of purpose is, that's why you find like going to work is quite meaningless. So if the person can't even just do the access, just do the courses at least. If not, then you're operating like an autopilot. Wake up, first go to work, come back, you know, like Netflix, whatever. So that's an autopilot mode. So not so cool. In short, the last one is like low motivation. Those are the top category of people that would seriously benefit from having done access on a regular basis. BodyTalk Access is a self-care routine. It's a one-day workshop, but now when we teach it over Zoom, it's split over so-called 2 parts or 2 days. So you learn in 1 day or 2 days, you use it for a lifetime. So these are some of the benefits that myself and a lot of my clients have shared. It is meant for health maintenance and prevention, so it's very empowering. So it gives us the empowerment to take control of our life back, minimize the blaming, be more aware that if we're blaming means we're not taking responsibility or we're not accountable for our own life. So BodyTalk Access helps us to gain that control back. It helps us to align or more congruent between our three brains. So as we do our access techniques, we are more congruent. So what does this congruent means? Most of us, sometimes we feel like your head wants to do something, but then your heart tells you no, or vice versa. Like your heart, you feel you want to do something, but this guy up here said, you better think again, what if, right? So, and again, of course, there's a gut brain. Gut brain means very instinctive. But sometimes too instinctive, like just do it, then there's not congruent between your heart and your brain as well. So we ideally want to have our three brains aligned and operate congruently. If not, right, even if you're not aligned, then we get into stress, because we could have, some people who operate more from the gut, they're more impulsive, then they get more into the fight category, right? Then overpromise, underdeliver, then the brain cannot stop. Access also help us, of course, bridge that stress gap so that we can get unstuck from the past conditionings and limitations. And this is very beautiful. A lot of times people feel that their energy levels are not consistent throughout the day. Most of the time people wake up very fresh, and then by midday they start to crash. Or then they have even a label for it called what is it? Food coma. I think that's quite a lousy, for me at least, it's quite a lousy excuse. Right? And also that's injury prone, that we won't be making mistakes repetitively, not too easily distracted. In other words, you're able to be more focused in a peaceful manner, not in a competitive and stressful manner. And this is beautiful because our immune system is more resilient. So resilient means we're able to detect or even anticipate danger before it happens. So our immune system can respond when something happens and not get back into that fight or flight. So, and access is so beautiful because it helps to integrate with professional care. So what does that mean? Professional care means if someone is taking any other treatment, especially Western treatment, like things like chemo, that's more serious, right? Or even medication, any kind of medication being prescribed more on a long-term basis, doing your access is going to help the body on one hand heal itself, so that even the medication or the supplements to take is more, more effective. And then the list goes on, etc., etc. The online version is, I teach over 2 parts. It is on the February 15th and 16th, Tuesday and Wednesday evening, 7 to 10 p.m. My workshop fee is quite standard. The normal $250, which is my normal early bird price. This is where you can register. Please do, if you have not, follow me on Facebook. When I have all these free webinars, it will be definitely added into my Facebook. Scan this and then follow me on Facebook. You will get notified whenever I have new webinars. I intend actually to do this webinar at least once a month. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thank you for your attendance, and I'll see you again next month.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.